The hegemony's first contact vessel, Pride of Enlightenment, dropped out of hyperspace near Mars' orbit with all the grandeur its name suggested. Its crystalline spires and energy fields shimmed with advanced technology that made human installations look like children's toys. Captain Zixtel stood on the bridge, his scaled skin reflecting the red glow of the Martian atmosphere below. His species had conquered 12 worlds before joining the hegemony. This would be 13. Primitive chemical rockets detected, his sensor officer reported, mandibles clicking in amusement. Their largest vessel masses less than our diplomatic shuttle. A small collection of human ships approached, boxy, inelegant things that betrayed their origins as mining vessels and cargo haulers. The Pride's crew didn't even bother raising shields. Their automated defense systems could handle anything these primitives might try. That was their first mistake. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the bridge of the TDF Cunningham as her ship's electronic warfare suite engaged. It wasn't particularly advanced by human standards, just some modified mining scanners and communication arrays. But it spoke in languages the hegemony systems had never encountered, sending packets of data that made no logical sense. The Pride's defense AI tried to analyze the signals, attempting to force them into recognizable patterns. It failed. In trying to process the illogical human encryption, it entered a recursive loop that cascaded through its neural networks. Secondary systems tried to compensate, but they too fell into the same trap. The Pride's shields flickered and died. By the Founders, Zixtel whispered as his ship's systems went dark. What are they? The rest of his words were lost as the Cunningham's modified mining laser, originally designed to cut through asteroid rock, sliced through the Pride's unprotected hull. The diplomatic vessel's reactor containment failed spectacularly, turning the pride of the hegemony fleet into an artificial sun. But Sarah Chen's victory celebration was short-lived. Multiple hyperspace signatures appeared as the Pride's escort fleet arrived. 6 capital ships, each one capable of obliterating the entire TDF Mars defense fleet. All ships, execute Protocol Ares. Chen barked into the fleet comm. I repeat, Protocol Ares is in effect. The TDF ships scattered, each following pre-planned escape vectors. The hegemony fleet pursued, their superior engines allowing them to catch up to the fleeing human vessels easily. Their commanders were enraged by the destruction of the Pride, abandoning caution in their pursuit. That was their second mistake. The Cunningham's engines suddenly died, leaving it drifting helplessly. 2 hegemony cruisers moved to capture it, their tractor beams reaching out and grabbing hold of what looked like a civilian fuel tanker. Now, Chen ordered. The tanker exploded, its holds filled not with fuel, but with a carefully calculated mixture of mining explosives. The blast caught both cruisers, their shields optimized for energy weapons proving surprisingly vulnerable to good old-fashioned kinetic force. But Chen wasn't done. Her ship's sensors had detected something the hegemony had missed, a massive solar flare erupting from Mars' side of the sun. While her enemies were distracted by the explosion, she reprogrammed her mining laser, converting it into an amplifier for the incoming solar radiation. The remaining hegemony ships never saw it coming. The focused solar energy, magnified 100-fold by the modified laser, swept across their formation. Their energy shields, designed to deflect concentrated weapons fire, were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of power. 3 capital ships vanished in what would become known as the Mars Flash. The surviving hegemony vessels retreated in confusion, their commanders unable to process how they'd lost 4 capital ships to what they'd dismissed as primitive technology. They sent emergency signals back to the Hegemony Council, warning of unexpected resistance. In the aftermath, Chen received orders to return to Earth. The TDF needed her expertise for what was coming. As the Cunningham limped home, she reviewed the battle footage, already identifying improvements for their improvised weapons. Send this to Admiral Rosenberg, she told her communications officer. Tell him the electronic warfare package worked better than expected. And add a personal note. They're not ready for what humanity can do when pushed. The battle would soon become known as the Mars Massacre, not for the human casualties, which were minimal, but for how thoroughly the supposedly primitive Terran Defense Force had destroyed the hegemony's finest ships. It was a lesson the aliens would learn repeatedly in the coming conflict. Humanity's primitive technology, combined with their unconventional thinking, made them far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. As Chen's ship approached Earth, she allowed herself a small smile. The hegemony thought they'd found an easy conquest. Instead, they'd awakened a force they couldn't begin to understand. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly why Earth was classified as a death world. Senior researcher Ixilvax stared at the readouts in disbelief. She'd triple-checked the numbers, but they remained the same. According to every ecological model, the hegemony had developed over 10,000 years of space exploration. Earth should be uninhabitable. Preposterous, her superior, Chief Scientist Karn, chittered as he reviewed her findings. No sentient species could evolve in these conditions. The evidence is undeniable, Ixilvax insisted, bringing up more data streams. Surface gravity 2.1 times higher than any other known homeworld. Temperature variations exceeding 140 degrees in a single planetary rotation. Atmospheric pressure fluctuations that would crush most species, and the natural disasters. She shuddered, her scales rippling. Their planet actively tries to kill them. On the main screen, footage from Earth played. A TDF training exercise in what humans called Death Valley showed Marines running in full combat gear under a blazing sun. The temperature exceeded 50 degrees Celsius, yet they maintained formation, weapons ready. This is nothing. Ixilvax continued, switching feeds. Watch this. New footage appeared. TDF Special Forces conducting underwater training in the Mariana Trench. The pressure at that depth would have instantly killed any hegemony species. The humans not only survived but performed complex military maneuvers. Their bodies are unlike anything we've encountered, she explained. Denser muscle fiber, reinforced skeletal structure, redundant organ systems. They're built to survive conditions that would be lethal to us. And their reflexes. She played another clip, this one showing a human martial arts demonstration at normal speed. This isn't enhanced footage. They really move that fast. Karn's facial tentacles writhed in distress. The High Command must be informed. If they're this naturally resilient. It gets worse, Ixilvax interrupted, bringing up new data. They're adapting our captured technology at an unprecedented rate. Admiral Victor Rosenberg's Project Lazarus has already converted 60% of their civilian fleet into combat vessels. They're not just using our tech, they're improving it. The screen showed a converted Earth cargo ship engaging the hegemony cruiser. The human vessel's hull was partially stripped, revealing makeshift weapon systems cobbled together from mining equipment and salvaged hegemony technology. It shouldn't have worked. But as they watched, the hybrid ship's weapons tore through the cruiser's shields like they weren't even there. They're applying their knowledge of Earth's extreme conditions to warfare, Ixilvax explained. Those modified mining lasers. They've adjusted them to match the frequency of solar flares. Our shields were designed to defend against weapons, not natural phenomena. A new alert flashed across her screen. Incoming transmission from the front lines, she announced, opening the feed. The image showed chaos. The hegemony battle group had cornered what they thought was an isolated human colony on Europa. Instead, they found TDF Marines who had trained for years in the moon's sub-zero conditions. The aliens' technology failed in the extreme cold, while the humans moved through the frozen landscape like ghosts. We don't just face their technology, Ixilvax concluded. We face the accumulated survival skills of a species that evolved on a world that should have killed them. Every human is a product of billions of years of adaptation to conditions we consider unsurvivable. Karn slumped in his gravity chair. What are you suggesting? A complete reevaluation of our strategy. We've been treating them like a primitive species that got lucky with our first contact ship. The reality is far worse. They're Death World warriors who've been holding back. The Mars massacre wasn't a fluke. It was a warning. As if to emphasize her point, another report came in. A human strike team had just raided a hegemony research station. They'd breached the hull and survived in vacuum for 20 minutes, longer than any species should have been able to. The station's defenders were so shocked by the humans' biological resilience that they never stood a chance. One last thing, Ixelvax added, pulling up her final analysis. Their training programs, they're deliberately exposing themselves to even harsher conditions than their homeworld. They're not just naturally resilient. They're actively pushing their adaptability further. Every human soldier is a product of this Death World enhancement program. Karn opened a priority channel to High Command. The hegemony had severely underestimated their opponent. They weren't fighting primitives who got lucky. They were fighting an entire species that had evolved to thrive in conditions that the hegemony considered impossible to survive. The war was about to change dramatically, and not in the hegemony's favor. Supreme War Master Ixel watched his fleet drop out of hyperspace near Earth's orbital defense grid. 500 ships, the largest armada the hegemony had assembled in a millennium. Their energy weapons could glass continents. Their shields could withstand supernovas. Victory was certain. Multiple human contacts detected, his tactical officer reported. Primitive vessels, no significant shielding. They appear to be mining ships. Ixel's mandibles clicked in amusement. Destroy them all. Show these Death Worlders the price of resistance. The hegemony fleet opened fire. Their energy beams struck true and passed straight through their targets. Holograms, Ixel realized too late. It's multiple new contacts. The tactical officer screamed. They're emerging from the debris field. TDF ships seemed to materialize from nowhere, appearing from inside hollowed-out asteroids and abandoned space stations. Leading them was the destroyer TDF Phantom, commanded by Captain Maya Patel. All ships, execute Operation Spectre, Patel ordered. Show them why we spent 3 centuries perfecting submarine warfare. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each one operating with impossible coordination. They dove into debris fields where hegemony sensors couldn't track them, emerging only to strike and vanish again. Ixel watched in horror as his carefully arranged formation began to break apart. Human ships exploited gaps in their lines that shouldn't have existed, using maneuvers that defied traditional space combat doctrine. They turned the debris field into a 3-dimensional battlefield, something no other species had ever attempted. They're using the asteroids as weapons, his tactical officer reported. The humans had calculated precise trajectories, using their ships' gravity wells to redirect space debris into hegemony vessels. Even their mighty shields couldn't withstand the kinetic impact of asteroid fragments moving at relativistic speeds. But the true nightmare was just beginning. Lieutenant James Wraith Rodriguez watched from the bridge of his stealth destroyer, the Ghost of Ceres, as the battle unfolded. His ship, originally designed for deep space reconnaissance, had been modified with technology that seemed to defy physics. Begin Phase 2, he ordered. Let's show them why Earth spent so much time and resources on stealth technology. The Ghost of Ceres activated its full stealth suite. Its hull, coated with materials derived from deep-sea creature biology, absorbed energy readings. Its heat management systems, inspired by desert plants, made it virtually invisible to thermal scanners. Rodriguez's ship slipped through the hegemony formation like a phantom. Its electronic warfare suite, modeled on human neural networks, sent false signals that exploited the aliens' rigid command protocols. Hegemony ships began firing on their own allies, unable to distinguish friend from foe. Impossible. Ixel raged as another battle group fell into chaos. How are they doing this? The answer came from an unexpected source, his own tactical computer. The humans weren't just using stealth technology. They were exploiting the fundamental weaknesses in hegemony warfare doctrine. Centuries of hiding from themselves had taught humans how to be invisible in ways the hegemony had never considered. Rodriguez's voice suddenly came through on all hegemony channels, his tone calm and professional. Your shields are optimized for energy weapons. Your sensors are calibrated for logical attack patterns. Your tactics assume enemies will follow established doctrine. You never considered an opponent who spent their entire history learning to hide from themselves. The ghost of Ceres appeared briefly, just long enough to launch a devastating attack on Ixal's flagship. The War Master watched in disbelief as his own ship's systems turned against him, their automated protocols corrupted by human electronic warfare. Retreat, he ordered, but it was too late. The human fleet had surrounded them, herding the hegemony ships into a killing zone. The debris field became their graveyard as precisely calculated asteroid impacts tore through their formation. In the aftermath, Rodriguez's reputation grew to legendary status. The ghost of Ceres became a symbol of human ingenuity, a reminder that humanity's greatest weapons weren't their guns or ships, but their ability to think in ways that alien minds couldn't predict. The battle marked a turning point. The hegemony's greatest fleet had been defeated not by superior technology, but by humans using the environment itself as a weapon. They had learned, too late, that humanity's experience with submarine warfare had prepared them for space combat in ways no other species could match. As Paddle and Rodriguez's ships regrouped, they transmitted a simple message to Earth. The orbital defense held. The hegemony fleet is in retreat. Humanity's home remains secure. The galaxy would soon learn a crucial lesson. In space, as in the oceans of Earth, the most dangerous predator is the one you never see coming. Dr. Ilara stood before the Hegemony Science Council, her tentacles trembling not with fear, but with excitement. The holographic displays behind her showed thousands of combat simulations, each one highlighting a fundamental truth that the hegemony had missed. Our strategic algorithms are perfect, she began, against any rational opponent. But humans aren't rational. There's something far more dangerous. They're quantum processors in organic form. The council chambers erupted in dismissive chittering. High Counselor Vex raised a limb for silence. Explain yourself, Doctor. Your claims border on heresy. Ilara activated her primary evidence, footage from a training exercise where TDF cadet Maria Santos faced the hegemony's most advanced combat AI in simulation. The AI controlled the fleet of virtual ships, its quantum processors calculating billions of possible outcomes per second. Watch what happens, Ilara continued. Our AI predicts all logical moves, preparing countermeasures for each. But the cadet, she highlighted Santos's neural readings. She doesn't calculate. She feels. The simulation played out. The AI's fleet moved with perfect precision, cutting off every rational escape route. Santos' response defied all military doctrine. She ordered her ships to perform a slingshot maneuver around a neutron star, using gravitational distortion to appear in multiple places simultaneously. The AI calculated a 99.98% chance of total fleet destruction from that maneuver, Ilara explained. It didn't even consider defending against it because no rational commander would attempt it. But Santos' gut feeling told her it would work. The chamber fell silent as they watched the human cadet's impossible victory unfold. The AI, unable to process the irrational choice, fell into the same trap that had doomed the Pride of Enlightenment at Mars. Humans don't think linearly, Ilara continued, bringing up brain scan comparisons. Their neural pathways form connections that our science says should be impossible. They don't just think outside our box. They exist in a quantum state of all possible boxes simultaneously. She displayed more evidence. A TDF pilot instinctively dodging a shot fired from behind without any sensor warning. A human engineer fixing a reactor by hitting it in exactly the right spot, guided by what they called mechanical sympathy. A Marine unit surviving an ambush by choosing a path that seemed suicidal, but led to victory. Their unpredictability isn't a flaw. It's their greatest weapon. Every human is capable of making cognitive leaps that bypass normal causality. They call it intuition. We call it impossible. Vex leaned forward, his scales darkening with concern. If what you say is true, our entire military doctrine is useless against them. Worse, Ilara replied. We've discovered that prolonged exposure to human decision-making is affecting our own people. Young hegemony officers who work with human prisoners are beginning to show similar neural patterns. They're learning to think illogically. She pulled up her final piece of evidence, neural scans of hegemony youth who had been studying human combat footage. Their brains were changing, developing new connections that mimicked human thought patterns. The human algorithm isn't an algorithm at all. It's a form of quantum consciousness that we never thought possible. And it's contagious. Our own people, especially the younger generations, are beginning to think like them. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Ilara's findings threatened not just their military strategy, but the very foundations of hegemony society. Their entire civilization was built on predictability, on the absolute triumph of logic over instinct. There's more, she added, silencing the room again. We've detected signs that this quantum cognition is accelerating. Each generation of humans is more unpredictable than the last. They're not just adapting to us. They're evolving in real time. As if to prove her point, new battle reports arrived. Another hegemony fleet defeated by impossible tactics. Another AI system crashed by human unpredictability. We must completely rebuild our combat doctrine, Ilara concluded. Our current strategic models are worse than useless. They're actively harmful. We're fighting an enemy that can imagine possibilities our computers can't even conceive. The Council's decision was unanimous. Ilara's research would be classified at the highest level. But it was too late. The truth about human consciousness was already spreading through the hegemony, carried by young officers and scientists who had begun to ask dangerous questions about their own potential. The war had evolved beyond ships and weapons. It had become a battle between two fundamentally different ways of thinking. And the hegemony was starting to realize that their perfect logic might be their greatest weakness. Admiral Victor Rosenberg stood in the command center deep beneath the Mariana Trench, watching as engineers made final adjustments to Operation Poseidon. Around him, massive coil guns, each the size of a skyscraper, pointed up through the ocean depths toward space. Meta-ice production at 100%, Dr. Hannah Chen reported, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. The molecular restructuring process is stable. Each projectile is harder than diamond and carries a core temperature of near absolute zero. Rosenberg nodded, allowing himself a small smile. The hegemony, evolved on desert worlds, had never considered water as a weapon. They were about to learn why Earth's oceans had shaped humanity's understanding of warfare. All stations report ready, his tactical officer announced. Hegemony fleet detected entering lunar orbit. 73 capital ships. Begin Operation Poseidon, Rosenberg ordered. Let's show them why we spent millennia learning to fight in 3 dimensions. The ocean itself seemed to vibrate as the coil guns powered up. Each weapon used electromagnetic fields to accelerate projectiles of meta-ice, water restructured at the molecular level through a process that only worked in Earth's high-gravity environment. The first volley launched. Massive cylinders of meta-ice accelerated to relativistic speeds, their molecular structure maintained by magnetic fields. The hegemony fleet detected the launches too late, their sensors confused by the seemingly primitive composition of the weapons. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The meta-ice projectiles struck their targets. The hegemony's energy shields, designed to disperse plasma and laser fire, did nothing against weapons that were essentially sophisticated ice cubes moving at near-light speed. The absolute zero temperature of the projectiles created secondary effects that the aliens never anticipated. Flash freezing hull breaches and creating crystalline fracture patterns that propagated through their ship's superstructures. Second volley, retargeting, the tactical officer announced. They're attempting evasive maneuvers. But the hegemony's evasive patterns were predictable, their ships moving along mathematically perfect vectors. The coil guns adjusted automatically, their targeting systems guided by algorithms derived from studying ocean predator behavior. Dr. Chen's voice cut through the command center. "Sir, they've adapted their shields. They're attempting to match the temperature of the meta-ice to neutralize the freezing effect." Rosenberg had anticipated this. Initiate Phase 2. Deploy the drones. Thousands of small underwater drones, each carrying a miniature version of the meta-ice technology, launched from hidden bases across Earth's oceans. They used the planet's magnetic field for guidance, approaching the hegemony fleet from multiple vectors. The aliens, focused on the massive coil gun shots, never saw the drones coming. Each drone carried a payload of water transformed into exotic states of matter that shouldn't have been possible, but Earth's unique conditions made it work. Multiple direct hits, the tactical officer reported with satisfaction. Their shield modifications are actually making the damage worse. The temperature differential is causing cascade failures across their fleet. But Rosenberg's true masterstroke was yet to come. As the hegemony fleet struggled to adapt to the meta-ice attacks, human scientists activated their reverse-engineered shield technology. The principles were the same as the alien shields, but with one crucial difference. They were powered by hydrogen extracted from ordinary water. "All TDF ships, activate aquashields," Rosenberg commanded. "Show them what Earth's oceans can really do." The human fleet emerged from hiding, their ships surrounded by shields that rippled like liquid crystal. Every ocean on Earth had become a power source, giving humanity unlimited shield energy. The hegemony watched in horror as their weapons dissipated harmlessly against barriers made from the same substance that covered most of the human homeworld. "Send the message," Rosenberg ordered as another volley of meta-ice projectiles launched. "Let them know that every ice-bearing comet, every frozen moon, every water molecule in space is now our ammunition factory." The battle ended quickly after that. The hegemony fleet retreated in disarray, their mighty ships undone by the substance they had dismissed as primitive. But the psychological impact was even greater than the physical damage. They had just witnessed humanity turn their planet's most common resource into a weapon of unprecedented power. As the command center crew celebrated, Dr. Chen approached Rosenberg with a new report. "Sir, we've detected signs that the meta-ice is evolving at the molecular level. It's adapting to space combat in ways we never predicted. Just like us." Rosenberg stared at the readouts, a mix of pride and awe on his face. Even Earth's water, it seemed, had learned humanity's talent for impossible adaptation. The message to the hegemony was clear. They hadn't just awakened a sleeping giant. They had given humanity a reason to weaponize their entire world. Captain James Wraith Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Ghost of Ceres, watching as his elite stealth fleet prepared for their most ambitious operation yet. 30 ships, each one a masterpiece of human ingenuity, hidden in plain sight around the hegemony's core worlds. "All Firefly units, report status," he commanded, using the nickname that had spread through the fleet. Their ability to appear and disappear seemingly at will had earned them the comparison to Earth's bioluminescent insects. "Firefly actual. This is Phantom 2. Biocamouflage systems at optimal efficiency. Hull temperature matched to background radiation." One by one, the stealth ships reported in. Each vessel incorporated technology that the hegemony had dismissed as impossible: active camouflage derived from studying octopi and cuttlefish, heat management systems based on desert plant survival mechanisms, and electronic warfare suites that mimicked the complex patterns of human neural networks. "Begin Operation Lighthouse," Rodriguez ordered. "Show them why humanity spent centuries perfecting the art of hiding from ourselves." The Ghost of Ceres moved first, its hull rippling with patterns that bent light and sensor readings around it. The technology had its origins in Earth's deep ocean research. Humanity's first attempts to understand how creatures could become invisible in the most pressurized environments imaginable. Their first target was a hegemony shipyard, its defenses focused outward, never considering that an enemy could slip through their perfect geometric patrol patterns. Rodriguez's ship glided between sensor arrays, its presence masked by systems that had evolved from submarine warfare. "Control, this is Phantom 3. You need to see this," one of his officers reported. "Their entire defense grid is networked through predictable algorithms, just like Dr. Ilara's research suggested." Rodriguez smiled. The hegemony's reliance on perfect logic was about to become their greatest weakness. Execute Phase 2. Deploy the biomimetic drones. Hundreds of small drones, each one designed to mimic space debris, detached from the stealth ships. Their behavior patterns were based on studies of Earth's swarm insects, unpredictable yet coordinated, chaos and order in perfect balance. The hegemony's defense systems never stood a chance. Programmed to look for logical attack patterns, they ignored the seemingly random movements of the drones until it was too late. Each drone carried a payload of electronic warfare software based on human neural mapping, systems that thought in quantum possibilities rather than binary certainties. "All ships, commence synchronized strike," Rodriguez commanded. "Dance of the Fireflies protocol is now active." The stealth fleet revealed itself in a choreographed sequence that resembled a swarm of fireflies on a summer night. Each ship appeared just long enough to launch its attack before vanishing again, creating a display that was both beautiful and terrifying. Hegemony commanders, watching their supposedly impregnable defenses crumble, finally understood what they were facing. Humanity hadn't just mastered stealth technology. They had turned invisibility into an art form, guided by billions of years of evolution on a planet where being seen often meant death. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting unusual readings from our biocamouflage systems. The molecular structure is evolving, adapting to space combat in real time." Rodriguez wasn't surprised. Everything humans built seemed to share their capacity for impossible adaptation. Even their technology refused to remain static. The battle became a lesson in human warfare that the hegemony would never forget. The Firefly fleet struck simultaneously across 12 star systems, using tactics that defied conventional space combat doctrine. Ships appeared inside planetary rings, using ice crystals as cover. Others emerged from the corona of stars, their heat management systems allowing them to hide in places no ship should have survived. "Message from Earth Command," his communications officer announced. "They're picking up significant activity in hegemony space. Their entire military structure is being reorganized in response to our attack." "Good," Rodriguez replied. "Send them our final message. Every shadow hides a human ship. Every piece of debris could be a drone. Every empty sector of space could contain an entire fleet. We've spent our entire history learning to hide from ourselves. Imagine what we can hide from you." As the ghost of Ceres and its fleet vanished back into the void, the hegemony faced a terrifying new reality. They hadn't just underestimated human technology. They had failed to understand why humans developed such sophisticated stealth capabilities in the first place. A species that evolved as both predator and prey, constantly hiding from and hunting each other, had turned invisibility into a science that bordered on magic. The Dance of the Fireflies became legendary, not just for its military success, but for how it demonstrated humanity's unique approach to warfare. In the darkness between the stars, the ghosts of Earth had proven that sometimes the deadliest predator is the one that evolution has taught to remain unseen. Dr. Ilara stood before the Hegemony Council once again, but this time the chamber was in chaos. Holographic displays showed scenes from across their territory. Young hegemony citizens practicing human combat techniques, attempting their own versions of Earth's death world training programs, and even trying to replicate human neural patterns. "The situation has evolved beyond our control," she reported, her tentacles rippling with barely contained excitement. "Our youth aren't just studying humans. They're becoming more like them." High Counselor Vex slumped in his gravity chair, his scales dark with stress. "How widespread is this contamination?" "It's not contamination," A new voice rang out. Talix, Vex's own daughter, stepped into the chamber uninvited. Her movements were different from traditional hegemony patterns, more fluid, more unpredictable, more human. The adaptive generation, Ilara explained, using the term that had spread through youth communities. They've been watching humanity not as enemies, but as teachers. The results are unprecedented. The displays shifted to show training facilities where young hegemony members practiced in increased gravity environments, pushing their bodies beyond what their species had thought possible. Medical scans revealed subtle changes in their physiology, denser muscle tissue, enhanced neural pathways, even slight modifications to their genetic expression. "We're not becoming human," Talix declared. "We're remembering who we used to be, before our society chose perfect logic over biological potential. Humans didn't just survive their death world. They thrived because of it. We can do the same." More images appeared. Hegemony youth incorporating human military doctrine into their training, but adapted for their own unique biology. A young Kraxix warrior using their natural crystalline structure in ways inspired by human stealth technology. A Vorlex scientist applying human quantum thinking to unlock previously impossible technological advances. "The physical changes are remarkable," Ilara continued, "but the neural adaptations are even more significant. Young minds exposed to human thought patterns are developing new cognitive abilities. They're learning to think in quantum possibilities, just like humans do." The council watched in growing alarm as footage showed hegemony ships crewed entirely by youth, executing maneuvers that should have been impossible for their species. They weren't just copying human tactics, they were evolving their own versions, combining hegemony precision with human unpredictability. "Your generation chose to conquer death worlds," Talix addressed the council. "We want to learn from them. Humans didn't just adapt to Earth, they formed a symbiotic relationship with its dangers. Every challenge made them stronger. We can do the same." Ilara's data streams showed the movement spreading beyond military applications. Young artists were creating works that combined hegemony geometric perfection with human chaos. Scientists were making breakthroughs by applying human intuitive leaps to hegemony theoretical frameworks. Even their language was evolving, incorporating concepts that had never existed in their perfectly logical society. "This isn't just a rebellion," Ilara explained. "It's evolution in action. We're witnessing the birth of something entirely new. The next generation isn't choosing between human and hegemony ways. They're creating a synthesis of both." Vex and the other council members faced a terrifying reality. They couldn't stop this change without crippling their own society's future. The youth had seen something in humanity that their elders had missed, not just the strength to survive adversity, but the ability to grow because of it. "We've received a transmission from the Human Diplomatic Corps," an aide announced. "They're offering to establish joint training programs. They say they want to help us remember how to adapt." The chamber erupted in arguments, but Talix's voice cut through the chaos. "You tried to conquer humanity because you thought they were primitive. Instead, they showed us what we had forgotten, that true advancement comes from facing challenges, not avoiding them. We don't want to fight humans. We want to learn from them." As if to emphasize her point, new reports flooded in. Hegemony youth staging peaceful demonstrations across their worlds, demanding the right to pursue what they called adaptive evolution. They weren't rejecting their heritage. They were expanding it, guided by humanity's example. The children's rebellion marked a turning point in the war, but not through violence. Humanity's greatest victory came from showing the hegemony a truth they had forgotten. That life thrives not despite adversity, but because of it. The next generation had glimpsed a future where both civilizations could grow stronger together, each learning from the other's strengths. In the end, it wasn't humanity's weapons that changed the hegemony. It was their example of what a species could become when it never stopped adapting, never stopped evolving, never stopped reaching for impossible possibilities. The Grand Chamber of the Hegemony Council had never hosted a human before, Yet there stood Admiral Victor Rosenberg, his presence commanding attention despite being physically smaller than most alien species present. Behind him, the ghost of Ceres hung in orbit, a reminder of humanity's power. But he hadn't come to threaten. "We could continue this war," Rosenberg began, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Our meta-ice weapons control your shipping lanes. Our firefly fleets strike at will. Your youth increasingly side with us. Total victory is achievable." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But that's not why I'm here." The chamber's displays activated, showing not scenes of battle, but of Earth. Mountains piercing clouds, oceans teeming with life, deserts sculpted by wind, and jungles pulsing with energy. The Hegemony Council watched, uncomprehending. "You see a death world," Rosenberg continued. "We see the forge that created us. Every challenge Earth presented made us stronger. Every obstacle forced us to adapt. You evolved to survive your worlds. We evolved to master ours." Dr. Ilara and Talix stepped forward, joining him. The young hegemony leader and the scientist had become symbols of change within their society. "The Terran doctrine isn't about victory," Rosenberg explained. "It's about potential. We're offering to share Earth itself, not as a weapon, but as a training ground, a place where your species can rediscover their capacity for adaptation." The displays shifted, showing proposed joint military units where humans and aliens trained together. Research facilities where scientists from both civilizations studied Earth's extreme environments. Cultural exchange programs designed to teach both sides new ways of thinking. "Your technology is remarkable," Rosenberg acknowledged. "But it's static, unchanging, perfect within its limits, but unable to exceed them. We're offering something more valuable than weapons or ships. We're offering evolution itself." Telix activated her own presentation, showing the results from pilot programs. Hegemony youth who trained in Earth's gravity were developing enhanced strength and reflexes. Scientists exposed to human quantum thinking were making breakthroughs their logical systems had called impossible. Even their art was changing, incorporating the beautiful chaos found in Earth's natural patterns. "The Terran Defense Force will be transformed," Rosenberg continued. "No longer just humanity's shield, but teachers and guides for any species willing to push their own limits. We've already begun redesigning our training facilities to accommodate different biologies." Dr. Ilara presented her latest research. "The neural adaptations we've observed in our youth aren't regression. They're progression. Exposure to human thought patterns isn't corrupting our logic, it's expanding it. We're learning to think in quantum possibilities while maintaining our computational precision." The council chamber buzzed with discussion. The offer was unprecedented. The hegemony had conquered worlds, absorbed species, and imposed its order across the stars. But this was different. Humanity wasn't offering submission or even alliance. They were offering evolution itself. "Consider the possibilities," Rosenberg said. "Your ships, built with our adaptability. Your computers, incorporating our quantum thinking. Your soldiers, trained to combine your precision with our creativity. Not through conquest, but through choice and challenge." He gestured to the ghost of Ceres, still visible through the chamber's windows. "That ship represents what humanity achieved by learning to hide from ourselves. Imagine what we could achieve by learning from each other." The displays showed one final image, a proposed training facility on Earth where different species could safely experience the planet's various extreme environments. "Every challenge that shaped us is available to you," Rosenberg offered, "not as punishment, but as opportunity." Talix addressed her fellow hegemony citizens. "They're not asking us to become human. They're offering to help us become better versions of ourselves." The council's decision wasn't immediate, but it was inevitable. The hegemony had evolved to seek perfection through order. Humanity had evolved to find strength in chaos. The Terran doctrine offered a way to achieve both. As the peace accords were drawn up, Rosenberg made one final observation. "You came to Earth expecting to find primitives. Instead, you found teachers. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. Better to face it as partners in evolution than enemies in war. The Terran Defense Force's greatest victory wasn't won through meta-ice weapons or stealth ships. It was won by showing the galaxy that true strength comes not from avoiding challenges, but from embracing them. Earth, the death world that had forged humanity, became a crucible for all species willing to push their own limits. Fear of the Terran Defense Force remained, but it transformed. They were no longer feared as warriors, but respected as guides on the path of adaptive evolution. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or tactics. It was their unrelenting drive to become more than they were, and their willingness to help others do the same.